This is the last session of today, and I'm happy to chair this session, having two speakers, both having legal education, presidents of academies, and the session will be devoted to the role of academies. So our distinguished guest is Linda Greenhouse, whom I shall present in a short while. And I would like to make some remarks. As I told you at my welcome address this morning, this conference came out of a discussion held at our Academy's plenary session regarding the question, what should be the involvement of our Academy as a whole in politics? So let me speak shortly about some aspects of politics and academia in general, and regarding our Academy in particular, and then we'll be delighted to hear Linda. The combination between science and public life accompanies us here for many years. One can say that since its inception, Zionism attached to its political vision an aspiration for scientific excellence. Higher education institutions like the Hebrew University and the Technion were established in Israel many years before the creation of the state. The first president of Israel, Dr. Chaim Weizmann, was a renowned scientist who was instrumental in issuing the Balfour Declaration and in establishing the Zeev Institute to become later the Weizmann Institute. After the passing away of Chaim Weizmann, David Ben-Gurion, the founder of the state, approached Albert Einstein, then at Princeton, who was very active in the establishment of the Hebrew University, and proposed that he assume the role of the President of Israel. Einstein generally graciously refused. He did not consider himself fit for the job. Ben-Gurion also stood behind the establishment of our academy, instituted by law in 1961. The promotion of culture and science is embedded in our very existence in Israel. But the model of our university was molded according to the European Research University of the 19th century, which originated in the university concept of the late Middle Ages. In the disintegrated, conflicted world of pre-Renaissance Europe, the universities constituted universal organizations which crossed boundaries of language, culture, and political entities. They taught the same material in the same language, Latin, and granted the same degrees to students and the same academic ranks to teachers. They were united by one language, common knowledge, and especially by one strong passion, which was not tied to a specific location, the passion of knowledge and truth. The world of global knowledge was transformed with the establishment of the nation state. The universities, too, became national institutions. The national approach led to the rise of other movements, this time more liberal in nature. Gradually, universities were opened for women, for different religions, for other ethnic groups. The unity that prevailed in the early days of the university was replaced through the years by variety and diversity. Today, about 1,000 years after the establishment of the first university, the bells of globalization are loudly ringing once again. The globalization process is manifested in trade, communication, law, technology, and information. Universities are natural carriers of the globalization process. However, the conditions which transformed the university into a global entity 1,000 years ago have dramatically changed. Globalization means a common denominator. It is true that the English language has replaced Latin as the Academies' lingua franca, but we are not united by the same faith, gender, ethnic background, or values. A deep gap of income divides us, and at times we do not share the same knowledge. We do not mourn the passing of the monolithic academic world of the past, which was only accessible to European, white, Catholic, single men. The current model is compatible with the basic values of liberal democracy, freedom and equality, and is far more abundant than the former model. However, the current model is fraught with tensions which did not exist in the past, with cultural conflicts, and with some threats. The tensions which challenge the concept of liberal democracies are reflected at the universities, in the subjects of instruction, as well as in the topics of research, mainly in the fields of humanities and social sciences, but not only in these areas. In addition to it, how to cope with unlimited information, sometimes based on false data transmitted immediately to everyone's smartphone. How to cope with the challenges of artificial intelligence and the rapid technological changes. How could we infuse trust to science? What is the role of academies in this regard? Are we under a duty to be publicly engaged? As I told you in my welcome greeting, we should be modest. As scholars, we are not the moral arbiters of our political life. Our expertise does not make us experts in politics, and an involvement of the academy as a whole would be justified only in cases where the political interference is at the heart of academic values. As academies, the aims of which is to promote science, we should be publicly engaged in transmitting science to the public. As rector of Tel Aviv University, we decided to assist a high school in Jaffa comprised of Arabs and Jews of lower class. We sent our professors to the school for lectures and tutorials and opened the gates of the university to the students and their parents. As law professor, I was an active member in a committee of experts for the codification of Israeli private law appointed by the Minister of Justice. Nowadays, the Israel Academy opened its gates to the public, focusing on high school students, and we exposed them to lectures by our best scholars from all scientific disciplines. These encounters might be life changers. Under law, we serve as the scientific advisors to the Israeli government. We give some scientific advice to the Council of Higher Education, a body in charge of budgeting and planning research in Israel. We related to the issue how to develop medical research in Israel, how to maintain the studies of nuclear physics, or in a much different context, how to develop Holocaust and genocide studies in Israeli universities. We are now having a committee on the issue of welfare indicators. So we are publicly engaged, and this can be done through our scholarly expertise. Some words about scholarly expertise and trust in science. Scientific knowledge is generally based on assumptions that require verification and on questions relating to the techniques or methods of verification. The quest for truth, which describes both the creative drive and the obligation entailed in the fulfillment of this drive, unites the entire scientific world and the scientists themselves. It is the goal. It involves constant uncertainty. Inherent in this process is the freedom to cast doubt on every assumption and to offer a conflicting view. That culture of arguments, casting doubts, not bending to authority, is the essence of free intellectual life that leads to innovation in theory and in practice. Indeed, the history of science is replete with examples of paradigms that collapsed and were replaced by other paradigms that eventually proved wanting. Hence the paradox. How can a system founded on casting doubts and examining its basic assumptions ask for trust by those who operate outside this system? While knowledge can always be subject to doubt, some of its products reflected in modern technology can hardly be questioned. Here, the issue of trust acquires a different dimension. There is no lack of trust in the achievements of technology, but there are serious concerns relating to its risks inherent in destructive weapons, climate change, and artificial intelligence. It is therefore crucial for scientists to present the political and financial echelon, as well as the general public, not only with their findings and conclusions, but also the doubts and the risks involved. To address these concerns and other concerns, such as ethical misconduct in science, we must turn to the fields of humanities, social science, and law. And the question now relates to the degree of trust available to these subjects and their ability to reduce risks. Following C.P. Snow, we used to talk in the past about the two cultures, sciences and humanities. The differences are still there. A debate on vaccination, though emanating from different viewpoints, might be more scientifically based than debate on the relationship between judiciary and legislator, the latter being, as we have just seen, heavily laden with political views. And a final note about humanities. We are talking about the fantastic success in science and technology. We are proud in it, but we all know that humanities all over the world face a crisis. We believe that a liberal education contributes to the individual and to society at large. A report by the Academy, our Academy, related to the humanities crisis, proposed inter alia a program whereby mandatory courses in the humanities and social sciences be taught to all students. Indeed, this was adopted in the major universities. And a final remark. Following the path of Martin Buber, our first Academy president, we want to deepen the cultural, spiritual knowledge and understanding of our past in order to build our future and to merge universal and national values. The challenge is still there.